This is a short overview of strategy.mil, a tool that the US Army uses to consolidate existing software platforms, and they've saved over $1 million on this particular case study. So let's jump right in. So this is ICRS. It's a legacy software application for tracking sexual harassment data. When you log in, you're going to see all kinds of different options you can do. There's master user listings, there's sexual harassment case listings, and that's where we're going to go, where most of the action in this app happens. So this is a list of all these sexual harassment cases. It's going to show you the first 10. If I click on page 6, it's going to show me records 60 through 69, and we're clicking on the incident for Jane Doe. And it's just an incident tracking system, right? You can enter information about fields, there's validation rules, you can do a bunch of checkboxes for the type of harassment, but this could just as easily be a property management system, tracking bulldozers for Army Corps of Engineers or whatever, right? The government tracks lots of information about lots of stuff. This is that kind of system. So this is what we made for them. Again, this is a demo server. This is all AI generated data. Here's the screen that they see when they first log in. When you go to sexual harassment cases, it loads right away. But instead of showing just 10 records, it's going to show 14,000 records. And these are all the different records you have here. You can quickly search through them. Here's the different cases involving bobbies. And because it's based on strategy.mil, the software behind it is called Spider Impact for Government. But because it's based on that software, you've got data visualization and dashboards and whatever built right into the software. Here we're going to click on Bobby Humphrey, and it's going to show you the information about that. You've got all the different checkboxes. It's exactly, we recreated the application with the same validation rules and business rules. But there's additional things that they can do that they couldn't do before. They can now upload a document, DA Form 7746, about the incident. And they have this new reporting tab that we added because built into strategy.mil is all of these dashboards with real-time analytics pulling from the data sets behind the scenes. So as I'm entering data, I can also report on the data and look at the, here's the arson cases that were reported. Again, completely AI generated. But again, because this is all built on the same back end, you've got data visualization, analytics, infographics, all this stuff updating in real time. Now, dashboards are really great when you know what kind of information your leaders want to see ahead of time. But what happens if they want to ask questions about the data that they have permission to see, but you haven't figured out that they wanted a dashboard about that? Well, for that, we have Impact Assistant, where you can ask questions and chat with your data. How many incidents were at Fort Riley in 2023 where the victim was male? That's just saving me time for typing. I could have just typed that in. Now it's going to go off and think and analyze the data that you have access to. It does this all securely without sending this offsite. It's all happening on your secure server. And it's going to come back with a number 5. And it's going to say that number 5 every single time because it's actually just using AI to convert whatever you type in there into a query on your actual data. So it will send off to the AI, hey, they're tracking sexual assaults. The information they're tracking is the victim location, the whatever, but it never actually sends case information over the wire to the AI. And again, all this happens behind the scenes at Amazon GovCloud, so it's completely secure anyways. It's all past FedRAMP certification. All of this stuff is DOD-authorized. So we go through all the security things. It's using AI in an incredibly secure way. So you can ask follow-up questions. How many just in March of that year, regardless of gender? And so it's going to go off and answer a follow-up question. But what's interesting, I use very specific words there to show you how this thing's smart. So first of all, I said March of that year. I didn't say 2023, but it knew based on the on the context of the history that I actually meant of 2023 when I said that year. And I used gender instead of sex. The field is officially called sex, but folks refer to things in different ways. The AI was smart enough to realize I wanted to filter based, I wanted to remove the complainant sex filter. So, and finally, I didn't say anything about Fort Riley, but it kept the Fort Riley filter because it knew I was probably asking a follow-up question about that previous data. So this AI stuff allows you to chat securely with your data. This is the final finished product. It's running in production now, just as of very recently, and we're getting really good feedback on this. All right, so if that's enough to whet your appetite, please reach out to us. We're happy to schedule a demo for you and answer whatever questions. But if you want to see how this was built, feel free to stick around. I'll walk you through the whole thing. All right, so this is the software, Spider Impact for Government. It's the software that powers strategy.mil. It's used throughout the federal government in a lot of other areas by a lot of other agencies than just the U.S. Army. But that is the most visible one, and that is the one that we are able to talk about publicly. So here is an example data set. So it takes all of your data and consolidates it in one spot. You get your data into data sets in the way you would get it into any other business intelligence tool. You can query databases, you can upload CSV files, you can download them from Excel files from some FTP servers. You can connect via REST web service, however you want, right? You can get your data in a variety of ways. Once your data is in, it's just like a spreadsheet. Here's a customer ID. This is a fictitious company called Mobile World where they sell cell phones, and this is the sales data set. So here's the date, here's the price, here's the employee who sold it, the customer. That links over to the customer's data set where it has information about all of our customers. So again, like many business intelligence tools, you can link these data sets together to get insights by combining your data together. So here in device sales, I can do ad hoc analytics. I click on choose a field and how do I want to break down my data? Well, let's look at sales employee. So I can see here Isaac makes up about 20% of my sales. Odell makes 18%. Let's break it down by sales department. Retail is 98% of my sales. Let's break it down by country. United States has 34% of my sales. So I can, if I want to ask any more questions, like I want to see Michelin's data, I click on that. It's filtered down to her 6,000 sales, and these are her sales numbers in the various countries. All of her sales are in retail. If I just want to see, sales in United Kingdom, here's that data, or here's the United Kingdom for Odell, that kind of stuff. So this is ad hoc analytics. You choose which field you want to see information about. You click on values to filter. Now, you would never actually brief leaders directly out of the dataset section. This is just a place where you go to answer questions quickly. Oh, and also one more thing, you assign permissions here. So if I go into this dataset and I go down here, the admin users can see a certain type, European corporate sales, people in that group can only see records where the country is Europe and the sales department is corporate, right? So you have a secure and you have a full auditing capability. This stuff is being used across the U.S. Army with great success. These filters are centralized on the data set and they're fully auditable, so you can run reports to make sure only the people have access to the data that they need. Okay. Again, taking a step back, you would never actually brief out of the dataset section. That's just where you store your data. Where you would brief is here in the presentation section. So you can go in and create charts. Here's a chart of, this is all the employees, same data, but visualized. These are the top 4 countries, and it's breaking down by employees with a median reference band in the middle. Or here's a geographic chart, all the sales by zip code. Looks like California and New Jersey are doing great. We can click on there and we can see that this zip code is doing fantastically, the 07083 zip code. For reports, you can see record level information. Here's every single sale in July of 25. That's what the data looks like for August of 25. And you can see every single individual sale broken down by salesperson. You can export this to Excel, PowerPoint, PDF. I can have this thing emailed out every Friday night, at a particular schedule or whatever, right? Or I can aggregated report data. Every row here is a salesperson. Every column here is a country. And you can see, we're doing well in the United States and UK. Dashboards. This is what's big for business intelligence stuff. It's huge for Spider Impact for Government. Exact same kind of data. Let's look at Holly's numbers. this line chart with a projection showing a 95% confidence interval here that automatically updates. Holley's sales in the United States look something like that. Again, here's that geographic data, but with filters on a dashboard. So for electric utility, we can choose Long Island Power Authority, and sure enough, all these numbers update, and it shows you, just these particular, these are the zip codes that are on Long Island. But you can do any kinds of dashboards. Here's speedometers and charts and graphs and whatever. The last thing I want to show you in presentation section is briefings. This is unique for Spider Impact for government. It's like a PowerPoint presentation. Whenever we go into a new Army organization, they'll say, hey, here's the 50 slides that the colonel likes to be briefed on every quarter. And we'll go in and we'll recreate those slides so they look pixel perfect, exactly like they're used to, except for the data is being pulled based on real numbers behind the scenes rather than, something that someone has to type, an action officer has to type in, every couple of months. So I go through my briefing. Here's my quarterly reports. Here's that cycle. Holy smokes, the leader in the room says, why is monitoring 0? Well, I can click on it. I drill into the software. I can answer whatever questions about, here's execution, here's monitoring, here's what's going on, here's some comments, that someone added at a certain point in time. And then once we're done discussing it, there's this pulsing link in the corner that you click on it and it jumps you right back to where you were in the presentation so you can continue along the way. And as you've noticed here, these presentations are just screens from Spider Impact for government. You go through and you say, I want to add this screen to the briefing for this date. I want to add this screen to the briefing. And you build up this linear progression where you walk someone through a particular briefing. All right. 2 more things to show you as we build up to how we replace a legacy system. So all this stuff's great. It's data visualization, it's reporting, it's traditional BI, right? But what happens when traditional BI works great when the data you want is in a system of record, but what happens when there isn't a system of record? Well, for that, we have forms, and you can collect data, sending out these surveys, take a climate survey over down at Fort Hood to see, how people are feeling about different things. And it dumps those records into a data set, and then you use that for, visualization like anything else. Or you can do, record management. So it lists all your customer records. I can click on this one and it takes me into that record for that particular customer, and I can see the various sales I've sold to them or upload a customer license agreement or that kind of thing. So those are the 2 different types of forms that you can build for collecting information. And this is no code, low code kind of stuff. So if we go over here to ICRS organization, this might look familiar. It's that sexual harassment case listing thing here, right? Where I can go in and I can look at this. This is just a little mini dashboard, and our dashboards are just like PowerPoint, where you can drag and drop stuff around. I can very quickly edit these things. I can add a speedometer or a gauge or, add a new chart. There's this new bullseye chart or pie or whatever, right? These are all infographics and charts and line stuff. So if I wanted to add a funnel chart, I could wire it up to whatever data I wanted, and I'd put it on this form or whatever, right? So all this stuff is really quick. It's really drag and drop. Here's the case flow. This probably looks similar, right? This is that big thing where you have all the different checkboxes or whatever. But if I wanted to, if I think case type should be down here, I could just drag it down and drag it wherever I want. Or if I want to track victim eye color, I could go into the data set, quickly add that field, and then go over here to add a widget. It's a buttons dashboard, single field, harassment incidents. Did I even add this one? No, I didn't add eye color, but whatever. You add it right here, it adds to the bottom, and you drag it to the top. So that's how these drag and drop forms work, and you can build these forms for managing inventory or tracking incidents or whatever. The final piece of this is this app section where you go through and you curate apps. So for ICRS, I say, here's the URL I want it to be, give it its own URL right here. And then you just add pages. The home page should be a single dashboard pulling from here. Then there should be a section called user access request. It's a form. The master user listing is a single form. The sexual harassment case listing is a single form. And then the reporting section is dashboards for every organization. And so when I actually use this application, It's got CAC authentication. It's got all the same permissions within strategy.mil, also called Spider Impact for Government. But it's got your little app here that you're building. And so you can completely replace these legacy systems with full functionality for business intelligence and data collection on the side. So that was a fire hose of information. I realize that. Please reach out to us. We'll talk with you. We'll walk you through this. We've been doing this kind of stuff with the government for decades. We know what we're doing here, and we would like to help you eliminate legacy systems and save a bunch of money. Have a wonderful day.